Hi everyone, this is Kay Halisak. I'm an Associate Professor of English and Director of the Second Year Writing Program here in the English Department. And this year, as part of our professional development training, we're going to be flipping professional development, presenting to you in digital format through PowerPoint presentations, videos, and other kinds of materials, a fair amount of the introductory material or informational material regarding 2367, rather than doing that during the workshop. So in this fashion, you can view these videos and view the PowerPoint presentations and get a good deal of the information about the course and about your responsibilities with the course before coming into the workshop. That also then allows us the opportunity to use the workshop as a time to really begin building out your course activities, assignments, and syllabi. This first presentation is really just an introduction to the requirements of and some of the materials and assignments that need to be included in 2367. Some of our key terms and recurring themes that we'll be using during the workshop are these listed here on this slide. We'll be talking a lot about course goals, those big pictures, aspirations for the course as a whole. You may have your own course goals, especially given the thematic orientation that you'll have for your course and whether you're teaching a .01, 02, 3, 4, or 5 version of the course. In addition to those larger course goals, you'll have learning outcomes, and there will be learning outcomes that you are required to implement or at least strive for with your course, with your students in your course, that are given to us through the Ohio Board of Regents and the Ohio State GEC. These are those measurable, focused concepts and skills that you hope that students will acquire over the course of the term. We'll also be focusing a lot on information literacy. That set of skills need to revise, to find, retrieve, analyze, and use information. This is another term for a lot of the skills that are required of students during the researching process. We also require, as part of the second year writing curriculum, what we're just calling SERI, a Scaffolded Extended Research Experience. This is the one sort of curricular requirement that we have across all sections of 2367. It should be scaffolded, that is, it needs to include a number of shorter assignments or activities leading up to the final research product, and it needs to be extended then over time. And it's a research experience because we recognize that the different kinds of research that may be undertaken in a course will vary or differ from section to section of 2367. Oftentimes we get questions about the relationship of 2367 to 1110, and this particular slide gives you some of that information, some of the shared set of expectations. In both courses, students will apply basic skills, demonstrate critical thinking, and retrieve and use information analytically and effectively. And again, in 1110, students are again mandated to learn the conventions and challenges of academic discourse and demonstrate that they can read critically and analytically. And in addition to those particular course objectives or learning objectives, in 2367, students through critical analysis, discussion, and writing will also do these achieve these three additional objectives. They'll extend that ability to read, and they'll further develop skills, and then develop skills in effective communication, in accessing and using information analytically. And so you can see from these last three that really the course is an extension of an opportunity for students to further develop, and then also to extend those basic skills into modes of effective communication and means of accessing and using information analytically. So in some ways this description isn't particularly helpful because it merely describes 2367 in terms of 1110, and we recognize that this is sometimes problematic, sometimes at least challenging for a lot of instructors, including ourselves, with 2367. In addition to the Ohio State General Education curriculum and its outcomes, the Ohio Board of Regents has mandated a series of outcomes, learning objectives for students. They're listed here on this slide, and you may want to take a few minutes and stop the screencast here for just a couple of minutes to look over these, because these will be among the learning objectives that you will want to employ and include in your course. And there are expectations for the students and for you in terms of the curriculum that you develop and the assignments and activities you give to your students. So please, again, pause the screencast here for just a couple of minutes if you want to look over these a little bit more carefully. They will become part of our workshop when we meet face-to-face later in the spring. In addition to the Ohio State GEC and Ohio Board of Regents outcomes, the 2367 program in the English department has a number of stated objectives or requirements and expectations. And again, you may want to pause the screencast here for a couple of seconds, couple of minutes, just to look carefully at these so that as you come into the workshop, when we do meet face-to-face, you'll have a clear sense, a clear understanding of what your obligations are and what our expectations are for you as teachers in the writing classroom. In particular, you'll see again this requirement for an extended researched essay as well as 2 integral shorter assignments such as a summary critique, an annotated bibliography, or a research proposal that will precede and then facilitate the completion of that final researched project, whether it's an essay or a documentary film or some multimodal composition. It does need to be preceded by at least 2 integral shorter assignments. It's also important to note that we will be expecting instruction in and practice of information literacy. Another element of most sections of 2367, but not all of them, but it is true of 2367.01 and .02, are additional requirements for diversity. We will have additional materials in the pre-quarter workshop folder as well as conversations during the workshop about meeting the diversity requirement. But please note here that the diversity requirement is not universal across all sections of 2367, although it is required for .01 and .02. One of the ways of thinking in some productive ways about the learning objectives or learning outcomes for your course is to take into account Bloom's taxonomy of learning. I introduce it here just briefly to you so you'll be familiar with the terminology and see some examples of the kinds of sort of foundational as well as increasingly critical understandings that students may take away from their second level writing course. Here we have then in the taxonomy at the very bottom those kinds of activities that encourage students in remembering. And as we move up the pyramid, we go to more and more complex kinds of tasks and modes of learning, from remembering to analyzing, evaluating, and creating. So as you think of 2367, what you want to be thinking about is moving students perhaps toward and having them practice more and more often at the level of analyzing, evaluating, and creating. And this might be another way in which the course differs from 1110. As we look again at some of the terminology that we might use in applying Bloom, we see here a set of verbs that you can begin to think about as you create your syllabi and as, again, in your class you move toward analysis, synthesis, and move toward the higher ends of that Bloom's taxonomy. Our goal would be for students to apply, interpret, for example, but also move up to analysis and synthesis as critical parts of the course. And now, I mentioned Bloom's taxonomy here and included in this PowerPoint screencast, just in part just to introduce you to one set of terminology, one set of ideas about thinking about the more complex assignments that you might assign to reach those learning objectives that are identified by the Board of Regents and Ohio State's GEC. So as you prepare for the workshop in the upcoming weeks, we ask that you really do a couple of things. First of all, that you review the OSU GEC and Ohio Board of Regents outcomes. You can find these materials on the Carmen website, the 2367 or Second Year Writing Program website. We'll also upload them to the go.osu.edu file or folder so that you can reach them there. Review those and become familiar with them because they will become part of one of the activities, one of the integral activities we do during the face-to-face workshop. Then spend some time reflecting on your own teaching experiences to determine how you may already be creating or already have created assignments and activities aligned with those outcomes. If you can think about the ways that you are currently employing the outcomes, maybe without even intentionally doing so, or you'll begin to see that your teaching may already be moving in the direction of what we're going to be calling backward design. That is, starting from learning objectives, course objective outcomes and learning objectives, and then moving back to creating assignments and activities that work students or move students more productively toward those learning objectives. And in addition to reflecting on your own teaching, we ask that you brainstorm some additional assignments and begin to think about these even before coming to the workshop, so that you can have some ideas in mind before coming to the workshop to work with your peers collaboratively in creating some additional assignments. And then finally, we want you to spend a few minutes brainstorming the possible thematic approaches you might take in English 2367.01 or 02. These are very likely the sections of the course that you will be teaching the first time you teach. Other sections, 0.03 through 05, are likely appointments later in your career as a GTA or lecturer at Ohio State. Remember, in thinking about those thematic approaches, that the course is one that is sort of defined around and by the U.S. experience. And so the materials that you might be bringing into the course, the thematic approaches, will need to engage diversity and also diversity within that U.S. experience. We're looking forward to meeting with you later in the semester. If you do have questions about the information in this PowerPoint or wish to speak with me in the weeks between now and our meeting, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you. Bye.